My family is convinced I seduced my younger brother's fiancée, and I have been completely disowned by everyone I love. I am 38, and my brother Leo is 28. We have been inseparable our entire lives, sharing a room until I left for college, and he was the best man at my wedding 7 years ago. When my divorce was finalized, he stayed on my couch for 3 months just to make sure I was okay. When he brought home his girlfriend Maya last April, I was genuinely happy for him. And she was a 27-year-old physical therapist from a respected family in our neighborhood. My parents adored her instantly. The first red flag appeared at their engagement party in June. I was grabbing a drink in the garage when Maya followed me in. She stood uncomfortably close and asked if I thought she was making the right choice by marrying Leo. I laughed it off, assuming it was just cold feet. Then the texts started, and they began with innocent questions about Leo, but turned into increasingly personal inquiries. What is he like in bed? Does he have a temper? Are you happy being single? I kept my responses short and professional, but she kept pushing. In August, they invited me to dinner at their new apartment. Halfway through, Leo got called into the hospital for a residency emergency. Maya insisted I stay to finish the movie. On their couch, her hand kept drifting to my knee. I left after 15 minutes. I'm making a fake excuse about an early meeting. That night, she messaged me. I felt something tonight. Did you? I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, she cornered me at my parents' house during a Sunday roast. While Leo and my dad were outside grilling, she followed me to the hallway and started crying. She claimed she'd made a mistake, that she was attracted to established older men, and that Leo was too immature. She actually touched my face and said, "Oh, he doesn't have to know." I pushed past her, walked straight out the front door, and drove home without saying goodbye. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls. Leo was outside my apartment at 6 a.m., hysterical. Maya had told him I cornered her, tried to kiss her, and confessed I'd been in love with her for months. I tried to show him the texts, but she had systematically deleted her side of every conversation, making it look like I was the one sending invasive, thirsty messages. My parents arrived shortly after. My mother wouldn't even look at me. She brought up my history, the years in my 20s when I was a bachelor, as proof of my character. My dad just shook his head in disappointment. Leo yelled, "She's 27! Why would she even want you?" That one stayed with me. 3 months passed in total isolation. I was banned from Thanksgiving. My mother blocked my number. I buried myself in my work at the architecture firm, but I felt like a ghost. Then last Tuesday, Leo's best friend Sam called me. We met at a coffee shop, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He'd been helping them move into their new house and found Maya's leather journal in a packing box. He showed me photos of the entries. They started in March, a month before she even met Leo. They were a cold-blooded blueprint. Target, older brother. Established career, owns apartment, younger one is a stepping stone. An entry from June read, engagement party success. That made contact with primary target. He seems receptive. The entry from September 14th was the most chilling. Backup plan activated. If he won't cooperate, I'll flip the narrative. They'll believe the woman. There were 43 pages of detailed plans on how to manipulate my family and play the victim. Sam sent the photos to Leo immediately. My phone exploded that afternoon. Leo called 17 times. My parents left sobbing voicemails begging for forgiveness. Maya's parents called to say the wedding was canceled and that they were horrified by their daughter's behavior. Yesterday, Leo showed up at my door. He was sobbing, holding a bottle of the expensive bourbon we usually save for birthdays. "I'm so sorry," he pleaded through the door. "Please, I'll do anything to make this right." I looked at him through the peephole, my little brother, the person I would have died for, and I realized that while they found the truth, the bond we had was already broken. I turned around and walked away from the door. He's still calling. The moment I heard Leo's voice through the heavy oak of my front door, I expected to feel a rush of vindication. I had spent months rehearsing the "I told you so" speech, imagining the look of shame on my parents' faces when the truth finally crawled out from under Maya's lies. But as he stood there, his muffled sobs vibrating through the hallway, I felt nothing but a cold, hollow exhaustion, and the truth didn't feel like a victory. It felt like an autopsy of a dead relationship. I walked away from the door and sat on my sofa, the same one where Leo had crashed for 3 months after my divorce. Back then, I thought we were bulletproof. I thought the 30 years of shared history, the broken bones, the graduation parties, the late-night talks about our futures, meant something. I thought that if the world accused me of being a monster, my own blood would at least ask for my side of the story before dragging me to the town square. But they hadn't. They had looked at a woman they'd known for a few months and chose her over the man they'd known for a lifetime. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from my mother. It was a photo of an old family dinner from 5 years ago. "We were so blind, Leo. Please come home for Sunday roast. We need to hold you. We are so sorry." I stared at the screen. Sunday roast. The very place where Maya had cornered me while my father and brother were laughing over a grill. The place I had fled from in a panic, only to be branded a predator the next morning. I remembered my mother's face that day, the way her lip curled in disgust, the way she brought up my bachelor years as if my 20s were a criminal record that proved I was capable of betraying my brother. The betrayal wasn't just Maya's, it was theirs. Leo started knocking again, softer this time. "Yeah, please, just one drink, like we used to." I threw all her stuff out, Leo. "It's all gone. She's moved back to her parents. I'm a fool. I know I'm a fool." I finally stood up and walked back to the door. I didn't open it. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood. "Leo," I said, my voice sounding like it belonged to a stranger. The knocking stopped instantly. "I'm here! I'm here!" "Man, you remember when I was 12 and I accidentally broke Dad's vintage watch?" There was a confused silence. Yeah, I remember. You were terrified. I told you I did it, and you went to Dad and told him it was you so I wouldn't get grounded. You took a hit for me without me even asking. We were kids, but we had each other's backs. I still have yours, Leo. I swear." "No," I interrupted. "You didn't. When it actually mattered, or when my entire life was being dismantled by a stranger's journal entries, you didn't have my back. You called me a loser. You asked why a 27-year-old would even want me. You let her delete my dignity, and you watched Mom and Dad turn me into a ghost." "I was manipulated," he cried out, his voice cracking. "She was a pro, Leo. You saw the journal. She planned this. She planned the lie," I said quietly. "But she didn't plan your reaction. That was all you. That was the real you." I heard him slide down the door until he was sitting on the floor in the hallway. I did the same on my side. We were 2 feet apart, separated by a piece of wood and a chasm of broken trust that felt miles wide. "What do I do?" he whispered. "How do I fix this?" "I don't think you can," I said. "I've spent 3 months learning how to live without a family. I've learned how to eat alone, how to spend holidays in a silent apartment. I can how to work until my brain goes numb, just so I don't have to think about the people who threw me away. I've built a new life, Leo. It's a lonely one, but it's one where nobody calls me a predator." "Please don't say that. We're your family." "You were," I corrected him. him. Now, you're just people who found out they were wrong. I stood up. My phone was still lit up with messages from my father, offering to take me on a fishing trip, offering to buy me a new car, as if a Tahoe could replace the months of psychological torture. They wanted to go back to normal because their guilt was uncomfortable. They wanted me to forgive them so they could stop feeling like the villains in my story. But I wasn't ready to play my part in their redemption arc. I heard Leo eventually get up. He left the bottle of expensive bourbon on my doormat. I heard his footsteps fade down the hallway and the distant chime of the elevator. That night, I opened the bottle. I poured a single glass and sat by the window, looking out at the city lights. I thought about Maya. I wondered if she was already writing in a new journal, picking a new target and a new stepping stone. People like her don't change. They just change their scenery. But I had changed. I wasn't the protective big brother anymore. I was a man who knew exactly how much his family's love was worth when the bill came due. An hour later, Sam called. Hey, he said tentatively. He's a mess, man. He's parked outside your building just staring at your window. Let him stare, I said. Are you ever going to talk to them? I looked at the empty glass of bourbon. Maybe, in a few years, when the sound of their voices doesn't make my skin crawl. But for now, Sam, I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago. What's that? I'm going to be the established older man Maya thought I was. I'm moving. I put in for a transfer to the London office this morning. They approved it. London? That's halfway across the world, Leo. Exactly, I said. Far enough that I don't have to worry about who's grilling in the backyard. Far enough that I can start a story where the ending isn't already written by people who don't know me. I hung up and started packing. I didn't take the family photos. I didn't take the mementos. I just took my clothes, my drafting tools, and the knowledge that sometimes my being disowned is the only way to finally own yourself. The terminal at JFK was cold, sterile, and smelled of burnt coffee and jet fuel. I stood by the large glass windows, watching the ground crew move like ants around the belly of the Boeing 777 that would take me to Heathrow. My bags were checked. My flat in London was waiting. I had a one-way ticket and a phone that had been on airplane mode for 3 days. I didn't tell them I was leaving. I didn't want the airport drama and the weeping in the terminal, the desperate promises to start over. But as I turned toward the security gate, I saw them. My mother, my father, and Leo. They were standing near the departures board, looking frantic, scanning every face that walked past. They looked older. My father's shoulders, usually so broad and confident, were hunched. My mother was clutching a small Tupperware container, probably the roast I had refused. I considered turning around. I could have ducked into a bathroom. He waited for them to leave and slipped through security unnoticed. But a part of me, the part that still remembered being 12 and breaking that watch, wanted them to see me. I wanted them to see exactly what they were losing. I walked toward them. Leo saw me first. He nudged my dad, and the three of them surged forward, stopping just a few feet away when they saw the look in my eyes. It wasn't anger. It was worse. It was indifference. Leo, my mother whispered, reaching out a hand. Please. We went to your apartment. The manager said you moved out. You can't just leave. I can, I said. I'm an established older man. Remember? I make my own decisions. My father stepped forward, his eyes red. We know we failed you. We've spent every night talking about it. We've been to a counselor. We're trying to understand how we could have been so wrong. It's simple, Dad, I replied, adjusting the strap of my carry-on. You didn't trust me. You didn't know me. You knew a version of me you'd built in your heads, and the moment a stranger offered you a more scandalous version, you bought it. You didn't even haggle on the price. I'll never forgive myself, Leo said, his voice cracking. He looked like he'd lost 10 pounds. I'm your brother. I should have known. You should have, I agreed. But you didn't. And now, I have to go to a place where I don't have to wonder if the people I love are secretly waiting for me to fail. My mother held out the Tupperware. It's the roast, just for the flight, or for when you land, so you have something from home. I looked at the container. The smell of rosemary and garlic reached me, a scent that usually meant safety and family. Now, it just felt like a bribe. I don't want it, Mom, I said gently. I'm not hungry for anything from home right now. The announcement for my flight echoed through the hall. Final boarding. I looked at the three of them, my past, my heart, my heartbreak, and I felt a strange sense of peace. The chasm was still there, but I was no longer trying to jump across it. I was just standing on the other side. I'm going to change my number when I land, I said. I'll email you eventually, maybe in 6 months, maybe a year. Don't come to London. Don't try to find my office. If you really want to make this right, give me the one thing you haven't given me yet. Anything, my father said. Silence, I told him. Let me be a ghost for a while. Let me see if I can find the person I was before you told me who I supposedly am. I didn't wait for them to answer. I turned my back and walked toward the TSA line. I didn't look back when I put my shoes in the bin. I didn't look back when I walked through the metal detector. And it wasn't until I was settled into seat 14A, watching the skyline of New York disappear into the clouds, that I finally let out the breath I'd been holding for months. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my father's old vintage watch, the one Leo had taken the hit for all those years ago. I'd taken it from my dresser before I left. I looked at the ticking hands. Time was moving forward, whether I was ready or not. I tucked the watch into the seat back pocket and closed my eyes. The air in the cabin was thin and recycled, but for the first time in 38 years, I felt like I could finally breathe. 6 months later, the rain in London didn't feel like a depression. It felt like a wash. I was sitting in a small cafe in South Kensington, the kind of place where nobody knew my last name and nobody cared about my history. I had a flat with a view of chimney pots and a job that challenged me in ways my old firm never could. I opened my laptop. My eye had been staring at the draft for 3 days. My finger hovered over the send button. To Leo, Mom, Dad, subject, update. I'm doing well. London is gray, but the architecture is incredible. I've started working on a project for a new library in Chelsea. It's the first time in a long time I've felt like I'm building something that will last. I'm not coming home for Christmas. I've booked a trip to the Scottish Highlands instead. I need the silence. I saw a photo of Maya in a local paper's social section. Someone sent it to me. She looks the same. I hope you've all moved on, but I also hope you haven't forgotten. Not out of malice, but because some lessons are too expensive to ignore. I'm wearing the watch today. It still keeps perfect time. Maybe in another 6 months we can try a video call. Until then, take care of yourselves. Leo, I hit send. I didn't wait for a reply. I closed the lid and took a sip of my bitter Earl Grey and looked out at the street. Across the ocean, in a kitchen I used to call home, I knew a notification had just chimed. I knew my mother was probably crying, and my brother was reaching for his phone to type 1,000 words I wasn't ready to read. But here, in the damp London air, there was only the sound of the rain against the glass and the steady rhythmic ticking of a vintage watch against my wrist. I was 38 years old, and for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I was supposed to be.